Welcome to 90 Day Digest, the series where I sit through each week's 90-day episode and break it down so that you don't have to. All the drama, the romance, and none of the wasted time. On tonight's episode, we will be discussing Season 8, Episode 6 of Before the 90 Days, titled Cabin Pressure Rising. If you haven't seen my recap for the previous episode, feel free to click the link in the description below. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Now, let's get into it. We are kicking things off with Forrest and Sheena, who are packing their bags for the dreaded trip to meet her parents. Now remember, the context here is wild. Forrest is furious that her parents have been draining Sheena's bank account for years. But now he has to go there, smile, and ask for their blessing to marry her. He basically has to ask permission from the very people he wants to cut off financially. That is going to be an awkward conversation. They hop on a bus for a 2-hour ride to her hometown. And while they are waiting for a tricycle to take them the rest of the way, the anxiety starts to set in. Sheena warns him, point blank, "My parents are going to ask you about your career. They want to know how you're going to provide." And this is where the other shoe drops. We find out that Forrest hasn't just been between jobs. He reveals in his confessional that he hasn't had a job in several years. He explains that his disability makes it difficult for him to get hired and keep a job. So he has been living entirely on disability checks. So let's look at the financial picture here. Sheena has been working to support herself, sending money to her parents, and bearing the burden of saving for her and Forrest's future life in the US. Meanwhile, Forrest hasn't been able to save a dime. Forrest is obviously terrified. He knows that in traditional cultures, the first question a father asks is, "Can you take care of my daughter?" And Forrest's honest answer right now is, "No, actually, she takes care of me." Sheena tries to reassure him, but her advice is basically just, be a man about it. You'll find a job. But behind his back, she tells the cameras the truth. She is disappointed. She is burned out from carrying the financial load for everyone in her life, her parents and her fiancé. She is terrified that once her parents find out Forrest is unemployed, they are going to laugh him right out of the village. The pressure is on, and honestly, I don't see how this meeting goes well. Next up, we have Jovan and Annalyn, and we are waking up with them after their very first night together. Apparently, things went well because Annalyn is in a great mood. They decide to grab some lunch, and Annalyn warns him that the local cuisine is spicy. Jovan, trying to be the big man, acts like he can handle it, but by the second dish, he is chugging water and fighting for his life. But the food isn't the only thing bringing the heat. Annalyn casually mentions that people from her culture are spicy, just like the food, and then drops a bomb. She says if they are lucky, she might already be pregnant from the night before. Jovan looks like he just saw a ghost. Annalyn tells us that they actually agreed to try for a baby on this trip. I'm sorry, what? You two have been fighting nonstop. You just met in person yesterday, and you think bringing a child into this chaos is a good idea? That is a recipe for disaster. Then the conversation gets weird. Annalyn asks him what he would do if she actually got pregnant. Jovan says he would do everything in his power to come visit her and the kid. Annalyn immediately clocks the contradiction. She asks, "Wait, so you can find a way to visit all the time if there's a baby, but it took you 6 years to come visit me once?" It is a valid question. Jovan gets defensive immediately. He accuses her of twisting his words and making everything about herself. He basically says she is too emotional and looks for problems, which makes him feel like he can't be himself. Classic deflection. Later, they go for a massage, but there is no relaxation happening here. Jovan reveals he sends her $600 a month, and he actually blames her spending habits for why he hasn't visited sooner. He thinks if she saved better, he would have been there years ago. Sir, a plane ticket doesn't cost 6 years of savings. The fight escalates when they talk about meeting families. Annalyn says she makes an effort with his siblings, but Jovan says she oversteps because she called his sister once to complain about him. Annalyn fires back. saying at least she keeps it in the family. Unlike Jovan, who runs to his ex-girlfriend for comfort when they fight. And then Jovan says, one of the wildest things I have ever heard. He tells her she needs to take accountability for his actions. He implies that her behavior forced him to reconnect with his ex. That is gaslighting 101. Annalyn calls it out as justifying cheating. And she is absolutely right. He calls her a handful. She says he is the reason she acts crazy, and she finally walks away. There is no getting through to this man. We finally catch up with Stig and Aviva after a couple weeks off, and we are right back in the hotel room. They are basking in the afterglow, and Stig jokes, "You think we made a baby last night?" Now, usually, this is where the woman laughs and says, "Don't be crazy." But instead, Aviva reveals in her confessional that Stig refused to use protection, even though he knows she is not on birth control. She says they are technically not trying to have a baby. Can we just pause for a second? You are in a foreign country, your relationship is barely stable, and you are playing roulette with a pregnancy? Aviva says she wants a family and thinks he would be a great dad. So apparently, we are just full speed ahead on the baby train. To make it even subtler, Stig takes her to the studio to watch him record a new track. And what is the song about? It is about breeding her. I wish I was making that up. Nothing says romance quite like a song about reproduction recorded in front of your friends. Speaking of friends, we meet Stig's friend Richie, and Richie is messy. He pulls Aviva aside and tells her that Stig's relationships always ruin his career. Then he drops the bomb. Stig's ex from Texas. Richie reveals that Stig was planning to start a family with this ex too. So, let me get this straight. Stig was trying to have a baby with the girl from Texas. And now, a few months later, he is trying to have a baby with Aviva. It feels like Stig doesn't want a partner. He just wants an incubator. Aviva is shocked because she didn't realize the relationship with the ex was that serious. Later, they hop on a boat to San Pedro for one of Stig's shows, but the vibe is dead. Aviva is giving him the silent treatment, and Stig calls her childish. When she finally confronts him about what Richie said, Stig doesn't even deny it. He says, "Yeah, when I date for the long run." He tries to downplay it, saying it didn't work out, so she needs to get over it. But Aviva is smart. She connects the dots. She asks him about his trip to Texas just a couple of months ago. He claims it was strictly for business and Belize Day, and that he was too busy to see anyone. He tells her she needs to trust him. But Aviva isn't buying the charm anymore. She asks him point blank if he is a one-woman type of guy. And Stig's answer? He says, quote, "I could do that." Sir, "I could do that" is not the same thing as, "Yes, I am." That is the answer of a man who is keeping his options open. Aviva immediately realizes she might have made a huge mistake by having unprotected sex with a guy who can't even commit to being monogamous without hesitating. Regret is setting in fast, and honestly, I don't blame her. We are back with the cliffhanger of the century. Lisa and Daniel at the airport. Daniel is on one knee. The dancers are dancing, and Lisa is panicking. In her confessional, she admits she wanted a proposal, but she specifically wanted to tell him she is still legally married to a woman before he put a ring on it. Well, beggars can't be choosers, I guess. So naturally, she says yes. I mean, what else was she going to do? Say no in front of a hired dance troupe and break his heart 5 minutes after landing? But let's be real. This is going to bite her in the butt. Not only is she lying to Daniel about her marriage, but she also promised her friend Faith that she would absolutely not get engaged on this trip. Lisa is stacking lies on top of lies, and we are just watching the Jenga tower wobble. Then we get a hilarious reality check on the timeline. Lisa asks Daniel how long he has been planning this proposal. He says 6 months, and Lisa goes, 6 months? That's when we met. And he just says, yeah. Lisa, wake up. If a man decides to marry you the day he meets you on the internet, that is not a fairy tale. That is a red flag parade. But she has the blinders on thick today. On the car ride to the hotel, they are sucking face, and Daniel is all excited to call Faith and share the good news. Lisa immediately shuts that down. She suppresses him so fast because she knows Faith is going to tear her apart for breaking her promise. She is literally building a house of cards that is destined to collapse. They finally get to the hotel, and the vibe shifts drastically. Lisa gives him some jewelry and then tries to spice things up. She pulls out the oils, she pulls out the rubbers, she is ready to go. But Daniel, he hits the brakes. He says he is tired, he wants a shower, and he wants to sleep. Now, to be fair, international travel is exhausting. But Lisa starts spiraling immediately. While he is in the shower, she is having a full-blown panic attack. She reminds us it has been 21 years since she was with a man, and she starts overthinking everything. She convinces herself that he isn't attracted to her or that he's disgusted by her. She decides to Hail Mary it and changes into lingerie to tempt him. She walks out, ready for action, and Daniel just goes to sleep. Lisa feels completely rejected. The high of the proposal has crashed into the low of a lonely hotel night, and we are only a few hours into the trip. This roller coaster is moving too fast. We jump back to Emma and Ziad, who decide that since they can't stop fighting in private, they might as well do it in public. They head out to dinner to meet Ziad's friends, and it starts with a classic love bombing reveal. Emma tells the friends she fell for Ziad because he called her his wife within 10 minutes of meeting online. See, to Emma, that's romance. To the rest of us, that is a siren blaring, "Run away."
The conversation immediately turns to Emma's wardrobe. One of the friends asks Ziad if he's taken Emma to the conservative parts of town where her outfit wouldn't fly. Emma is confused because she specifically asked Ziad before she came if she needed to dress conservatively, and he told her no. Ziad tries to backpedal, saying it's only some places, and his friend tries to cover for him, but Emma isn't having it. She realizes Ziad lied to get her there without a fuss, and then the table turns into a war zone. Ziad decides to deflect by bringing up Emma's lie about her ex. When Emma tries to defend herself, Ziad cuts her off and accuses her of being disrespectful for interrupting him. He actually turns to his friends and complains that she interrupts him constantly, which is a huge sign of disrespect in his culture. Sir, you just interrupted her to complain about being interrupted. The lack of self-awareness is blinding. Ziad then spills the tea to the whole table, telling them Emma was technically still in a relationship when they started talking. Emma denies it. They call each other liars, and Emma pulls out her ace card, the dating apps. She exposes him for inviting random women to Morocco on dating apps. And Ziad's defense? You have to hear this to believe it. He says he wasn't inviting them to see him. He was inviting them to the city because he is just so proud of his country. He claims it is in his nature to be welcoming. He is basically the unofficial ambassador of tourism, exclusively for single women on Tinder. Emma asks, "Okay, so if I invited dudes to LA, that would be fine?" And he says, "No, it's not the same." Of course it isn't. The friend, who is probably wishing he stayed home, asks the million-dollar question, "Do you see a future?" Emma, despite being called a liar and disrespectful 5 minutes ago, says she wants to be engaged by the end of this trip. She is fully committed to the delusion. But then the friend asks Ziad, "Is she wife material?" And Ziad looks her dead in the eye and says, "No, no, no, no. 0%. 0%. He says he needs more time because they are too different. But he just told his boys, she is 0% wife material right to her face. Emma is stunned into silence. And honestly, the only thing she should be saying right now is, "Check, please," and heading to the airport. We are now catching up with Rick and Trisha, and Rick is still holding on to the massive secret that he cheated on her with his ex in Colombia. But right now, he wants to focus on feeling close to Trisha. And unfortunately, that leads us to one of the grossest reveals of the season. We learn that Trisha tends to make a mess when things get heated in the bedroom. And I don't mean she throws clothes around. I mean Rick literally brought a roll of plastic bags.
to line the bed. He calls it a splash pad. I wish I was making this up. Trisha thinks it is weird. And frankly, so do I. But Rick insists it is a symbolic gesture, that he is willing to go all the way. Sure, Rick. Nothing says romance like a tarp. But the splash pad party ends abruptly when they get out on the street. Trisha's repaired motorbike is dropped off, but not by a mechanic. It is dropped off by a friend of her ex-boyfriend. Rick immediately spirals because they start speaking in Malagasy, and the friend drops a bomb. Trisha hung out with her ex just 4 months ago, when she and Rick were supposed to be exclusive. Rick goes full detective mode at dinner. He is convinced this explains the 5 days she ghosted him a while back. Trisha explains that she just ran into the ex at a restaurant, and he tried to get her back, but she turned him down. She admits she didn't tell Rick because she was terrified of exactly this reaction, him becoming Mr. Interrogator. Rick demands to see receipts. He wants to see the phone. Trisha shows him the text where she ignored her ex, and Rick finally accepts it. But here's the darkest part of this entire segment. The producers ask Rick if he thinks he is projecting, and he basically admits that yes, it is possible. He tells us that if Trisha had been cheating, it would make him feel less guilty about his own cheating. Think about that. This man is actively hoping his girlfriend is unfaithful, just so he can feel better about betraying her. That is twisted. The segment ends with the ultimate irony. Trisha tells us her ex was the jealous type who accused her of things while he was the one cheating the whole time. She says she is starting to suspect Rick is hiding something because he is so paranoid. Trisha, listen to your gut because you are absolutely right. History is repeating itself, and you have no idea. And finally, we check back in with Laura and Birkan. We start the morning after their traumatic visit to the plastic surgeon, and apparently, grief brings people together because Laura confirms they did the deed multiple times. She says Birkan proved exactly how physically attracted to her he is, so I guess the insecurity about the loose skin is gone for now. But because this is 90 Day Fiancé, we can't stay happy for long. They head to a market for lunch, and Laura decides to ask about his living situation. We already knew he was couch surfing, but now we find out why. Birkan admits he is broke, and not just broke, he is in debt. Laura asks a question we all want to know. How much? He says 50,000. Now Laura, being a logical person, assumes he means 50,000 Turkish liras, which is like 1,500 bucks. Manageable. But Birkan hits her with the I wish. He admits it is 50,000 US dollars. Let's put this in perspective. The average salary in Turkey is significantly lower than in the US. $50,000 of debt, there is an absolute mountain. How did he even accumulate that much? Is he gambling? Is he buying crypto? Laura is rightfully freaking out. She feels betrayed because he never mentioned this online. And Birkan's attitude makes it 10 times worse. He acts like it is no big deal. He literally says he is waiting for the right time to figure it out. Sir, the right time was $49,000 ago. Then he drops a major red flag. He suggests that since the debt is bound to Turkey, he can just leave the country and leave the debt behind. So his plan is to flee to America and pretend the debt doesn't exist? That is financial fugitivity. Laura immediately realizes what this looks like. Her family warned her he might be using her for a green card. And now he is sitting here saying, I can thrive in America, while trying to escape a mountain of debt in his home country. The writing is on the wall, and it is written in red ink. But wait, it gets worse. Birkan drops the cliffhanger of the week. He tells the producers he is worried about Laura finding out how he makes money when he isn't working. He says she might leave him over it. So what is it? Is he a drug dealer? Is he a scammer? Is he a man of the night? We have to wait until next week to find out. But whatever it is, I have a feeling Laura is not going to like it. All right, guys, that is it for this episode recap. From Stig trying to breed Aviva, to Rick hoping his girlfriend is cheating so he feels less guilty, and Birkan's $50,000 secret, this season is absolutely unhinged. Let me know in the comments. What do you think Birkan does for money? And do you think Emma should fly home immediately after Ziad's friends roasted her? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the next breakdown. I'm gonna go stare at a wall and process what I just watched. I'll see you next time.